be leaders ourselves.
Black women are being used by the Democrat Party.
All of these socioeconomic indicators are in the negative, particularly for Black people.
They want mob rule. When Trump was in office, please somebody tell me what act of dictatorship did he perform?
She had Donald Trump's hair on top of her head. And she's sitting here talking about brown girl this, brown girl that.
Because she's a Black woman.
They would ask her how to spell her first name and clap like sea monkeys.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
What's up, everybody? It is Friday, and it's time for Pop and Politics. I'm KJ. Let me introduce you to my co-hosts. Of course, we have Nicole Bennett and Shelly E.
Hi, it's Friday.
Oh, yes, it is. And before we dive in, please do me a favor, tap that thumbs up and subscribe, but certainly hit the like button. That helps to get our content to a wider audience here on YouTube, and we appreciate the support. Of course, we're here on YouTube and Rumble. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify under the name Pop and Politics. We love our chat. We shout out all of our super chats, so it's the best way to get your voice heard in the conversation and to show your love for conservative content. This is not just a podcast. This is a movement of God-fearing, truth-seeking, America-loving people that value freedom. Stand with us and subscribe so we can amplify this rallying call for freedom. All right, ladies, let's set it off. Folks, if you're here, if you've already noticed, we put out we have a special guest with us tonight that will be coming on in the second segment. So stay tuned for that. We have such an awesome show lined up for you all tonight. All right. How are you ladies doing?
It's wet outside, KJ. It's wet, it's cold, but I'm gonna tell you, our theme song hits different on Friday nights, don't it?
Yes, it really does.
I'm a little tired, but I'm okay. It's been a productive week.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, same here. I'm just happy that it's Friday. TGIF. I'm so happy it's Friday. And I'm always excited about our Friday night shows. We always have really involved, engaged chat, and we always have great topics, and it's awesome to talk with you all. So definitely excited about tonight. All right, so let's get into this Tim Pool. So the Beanie Man himself just dropped one of the worst takes of the year, in my opinion, casually labeling the stabbing of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf as self-defense. So we have been talking about this show about this issue or this story for the last couple of weeks, or since it happened. So over the last couple of days. Again, it's a teenager. A teenager is dead. That is Austin Metcalf, unarmed, and we're supposed to believe that this is justified. So let's unpack the facts and why this matters for every American who believes in justice, not excuses. This is him. Take a look in clip 4.
One where he says, what is it? Nothing matters but this. He was at a school event at the wrong team's tent with a knife. He clearly chose murder than to walk away, cut and dry here. Nope, wrong. Imagine you are invited to a party at someone else's house and you are legally carrying a firearm. And then a fight breaks out and or like an altercation breaks out between you and some guy, and there's drinking involved or whatever. I'm not trying to make a one-for-one scenario. I'm trying to create a potential scenario separate from this one with similarities. You go to a party. Let's say you go to a party. And some guy starts saying stuff like, yo, man, get out of here. And you're like, I can do what I want. I was invited to the party. Verbal altercation escalates. And then the dude, you're standing there and you pull your sweater back and you've got a gun. You put your hand up and say, don't come close to me, bro. I'm warning you right now. Do not come close. Do not take another step. Then the guy grabs your arm and makes a move. So you draw your weapon and you use it. Okay, make the argument you have no right to defend yourself when you're being attacked by a guy. Make the argument. By all means, go ahead and do so. I ain't going to do it. I don't know the circumstances. You can argue that you're in a place you're not supposed to be. You can argue it's that guy's house, and it doesn't matter. A guy can invite you into your neighbor could be like, come on over, brother. And then if he gets physical with you, you can defend yourself. And then what? The police are going to be like, well, you were in his house. And it's like, yeah, you invited me in. It's like, the door was open.
Okay, so that's Tim Pool. He's a huge content creator. I think he has over 1 million subs. He is I wouldn't say conservative. He is on the right. Again, he's a podcaster, political commentator, huge YouTuber. He's on Rumble. And that's his take on this story. So I want to start off with you, Shelley. What are your thoughts on what he said? You agree, disagree? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Actually, first of all, I think Tim Pool is so cute. He looks like a little boy, number one. So I want to start off by saying that. Number two, I disagree with him in that scenario for a couple of reasons. Number one, most importantly, Texas law. Texas law section 9.31. It talks about in section A and B, it talks about the person being justified in using force when the actor reasonably believes, no less, that force is immediately necessary to protect against the other's use or attempted use of unlawful force. That's number one. Number two, in that same section, a little bit further down, the Texas law talks about the suspect, if you will, or the perpetrator cannot be the provocateur, which is exactly what I said on Wednesday. So I disagree with that. Number three, in that scenario with Tim Pool, I wrote it down. He said that the person that was defending himself at this party gave a warning, stop, don't come near me, things like that. Well, that's one thing to give a warning. You can give a warning. As far as we know, Anthony did not do that. Anthony said, come touch me and see what happens. That can be considered, and very rightly so, a provocation. And also, I mentioned on Wednesday that when you have a concealed illegal firearm or legal weapon, again, there's always, or I would say 99.99% of the time, de-escalation. So even in Tim Pool's example, if you were at a party, number one, there was drinking going on. If you're carrying a weapon, you have to be, I'm going to say, careful about that. Number two, if you have the opportunity to do so, before you even tell that person, stop, get away, things like that, there's 99.99% of the time a de-escalation point where you can exit the premises. That is my story in my never to be humble opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
All right, Nicole, what's your response to that? What he said? Do you agree or disagree with his perspective on the case?
Well, his analogy has nothing to do with the facts that we know of the case, right? Now, in his analogy, you were invited to be at this party. In his analogy, you were carrying a legal weapon, a legal firearm. You're licensed, certified, trained up, and the state said yes. In his analogy, he's right in his analogy, but his analogy has nothing to do with what we know happened in this case. So I get that everybody is kind of piggybacking on this case. A lot of content creators are getting new subs and a bunch of likes, hitting that algorithm just right by talking about it. But if we're going to have an honest conversation, let's do that, right? He did not have the right to carry a knife on the school property, especially in Texas. Most schools have that drug-free, gun-free, weapon-free zone around it. This school was no different. He was not invited to sit under that tent. That was made clear by everybody telling him to get away from our tent. You don't belong here. And as Shelley said, provocative language is very different from, bro, get away from me. And if you come any closer, bad things are going to happen. When you say, touch me and see. Go ahead and punch me and see what happened to you. So this, although his story is compelling and interesting, and many people may have found themselves in a situation like that, it is very different than what actually happened in this case. I think the best case scenario for everybody involved is if America just takes a step back and let the facts come out, and then we can jump on and quote unquote OJ the hell out of this case. But for right now, it's just proving to be more divisive, and it's dragging these families through the mud unnecessarily.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. In Texas defense law, him illegally bringing the knife to a school event brings more complications for his self-defense argument. So, knives are in a certain class of weapons in Texas to settle. So, when you have a knife, um, if knives in excess of 5.5 inches are included in this certain class of weapons that negate self-defense. So we don't know how large this knife was, but if Anthony brought a knife to an unlawful place and he brought it to confront Metcalf due to some prior difficulty, again, we don't know that, but if that's something that happened, that would lose him his self-defense defense. Also, again, going back to what Tim Pool said. So, one, this isn't a shooting, or this wasn't a shooting. It was a fatal stabbing, which makes the self-defense claim even more suspect because, unlike a gun, a stabbing requires proximity, pursuit, and intent. You don't stab someone by accident. You have to have, you're in close distance, you get close, and you drive the blade, and he drove it into his heart. So that's another thing that we have going on here. Also, the scenario that he gave did not even come close to being, like the one that happened. You're not allowed to execute someone with a gun or someone who is going to over someone who's going to punch you. You just take the punch. You have to get punched in the nose. And so that takes us back to the proportionality argument of this issue. In Texas, I think, and most states, a self-defense argument has 5 elements that are required: innocence, imminence, proportionality, avoidance, which doesn't count here in Texas because Texas is a stand your ground state, and reasonableness.
But keep in mind, staying your ground usually applies to some place you actually belong.
Right.
In general. Right. Not some place you don't.
It doesn't. Right. And right. And that's why it doesn't apply, because Texas it's hard. It's a hard stand your ground state, and there's no duty to avoid here. There's no legal duty to retreat. So that's why the stand your ground doesn't. That's why avoidance, I should say, does not apply. We have a super chatter here. Kung Fu CJ says it's a $2 super chat. Says you cannot provoke someone so you can do harm.
Absolutely.
That's right. And so that's the big thing here. With that, they said in the police report that, and again, this goes to the innocence part of one of the 5 elements of self-defense, that Anthony said, "Touch me and see what happens." That is pretty clear provocation with intent, because he knew he had the knife in the bag. So he had the intent to use deadly force. Another thing that you all have already mentioned is the proportionality. Deadly force equals force capable of inflicting death or serious bodily injury. You cannot use deadly defensive force unless defending against a deadly force threat. And so we see in the police report, Metcalf, he touched him. That's not like a deadly force threat, or at least not requiring the response that we saw from Anthony. And even when one officer or one witness account said he grabbed him, again, based off of what we have, the facts that we have laid in front of us, that is not something that would be equal to deadly force.
I agree, but I do want to say for our audience and for whomever, in no way am I or anyone, I guess, advocating or saying that Metcalf should have put his hands on him. No, absolutely not. So again, like what KJ said, the proportionality, the deadly force. I will also say again that a good defense lawyer, whether we like it or not, is going to really, I don't know, I'm going to say, quote unquote, play with these words and terms. And a good defense lawyer can still use this self-defense with the provisions. So we're not prosecuting the case here. We are just talking about prosecuting the case. We're talking about what we know so far, and what has been put out so far. And again, there may be more to come out, maybe.
Right. And again, one of the things though that sticks out here is there has been no evidence shown that Austin Metcalf presented a deadly force threat. No evidence that Metcalf's twin brother interacted in this incident in any way. The police report doesn't mention it. The worst, again, that we have heard is he put his hands on him, which he said he touched him and he grabbed him, which was actually asked by Anthony. So is any of this conduct likely to inflict death or serious bodily injury, which is the standard of proof needed to impose a self-defense defense? Unlikely. It's very unlikely. And so this is what we're here to do. None of us are attorneys, and we're just here to look at the facts of the case and see where things fall, where things lie. And we're actually responding to Tim Pool, which he was way off base. Yeah. And so this is what we do here. We want to bring you guys the facts. I encourage you all to listen to Megyn Kelly's show today. She goes through it with two defense attorneys, and she pretty much came up with what we're saying here as well. I haven't seen it yet. Yes, she came up with here, and they're saying that it's likely they're going to try to do some type of plea because this is it's a tough case to push.
I want to respond to Family Bowers in the comments. He or she is saying that everyone is mad about what Tim Pool said, but talking about us, we're under the impression that he's a conservative. He's not. He's a little L libertarian. He believes in the Second Amendment. He's a Second Amendment absolutist. Well, Family Bowers, guess what? So am I. I call myself a small L libertarian very, very regularly, and I am a Second Amendment absolutist. I am also a Second Amendment to you when it's used and necessary. So, and again, all of these things come into play. Proportionality. I believe that anyone, if you are able to, American citizen, you should be able to carry a firearm concealed. In some places it's open, whatever. I do believe that you have every right to protect your body and yourself and your family. Yes, you do. I am totally for that. But I'm also.
I'm sorry. I want to jump in. That is why, and you guys must not have been, not you ladies, but the chat or this gentleman must not have been listening. I did not call him a conservative because he's not a conservative. I said he was on the right. He's on the right. And Nicole, you always make a very good distinction between that. Just because somebody is on the right does not mean they are conservative. There are a lot of libertarians that are on the right. You could be far right. I don't necessarily think most libertarians are conservative. So, and I don't think Tim Pool is. So I just wanted to put that out there.
I think he just wants some clicks. You know what I mean? This is a hot button story. America's talking about it. And what's really interesting to me is the people who should be talking about it, or we expect to hear information from, we haven't heard. But in the meantime, the world is continuing to spin. New York is devolving into absolute hell on earth-ish things that are happening in New York City. Meanwhile, we're all debating whether this teenage boy, who stabbed this other teenage boy is the reason why systematic racism exists and all of this other foolishness. We got to keep our eyes on the prize, folks. This is something that should be resolved at the state level by a state judge with these two families. It'll likely result in a plea. He'll do some time, make no mistake, because it is Texas. You can't just go around killing folk, but there's a lesson to be learned for everybody in this tragedy.
Yeah, and I think Shelley mentioned this last show where we talked about this. It's like these small instances within, a state that really, like you mentioned, Nicole, don't have any national precedence on anything, but they become so large. I mean, everybody's talking about this case. I mean, both the victim and the stabber have raised an enormous amount of money, about the same amount.
About the same amount.
Right. So, and then you have this racially charged element, which it doesn't have any, at least there have been no indicators or indication that anything to do with race is part of this story. However, there are people that are trying to make a racial slant to it. And I think that's really what's going to push this or has pushed it to national attention. Because of course, people are, whenever you have race involved, a lot of emotion is involved, and it becomes a huge issue. We do have some super chatters here. So let's see here. All right, Dallas says Tim Pool is a fool. Done. All right.
Okay,
Thank you. All right. Let's see here. Light Bearer 32. You hit the nail on the head, ladies. Thank you. Thank you. Michael Cantwell. I guess we have to ban knives now. Yeah, that would have been, it would have been huge if a gun was involved. Kimberly with the $5 super chat says, can't take Tim Pool seriously with the same tired beanie on his head for the last 10 years. Right. Kung Fu CJ says Tim is about to be swatted again. Oh my gosh. All right. So we're not going to spend too much time on this part, but we did want to bring this to you all because, again, it has been getting a lot of media attention. We've been following it, and we're trying to bring you updates and facts, and also push back on things that are just so absurd. So that's what we're here for. Where this is Poppin' Politics. Please like, share, and comment if you believe truth. We need to get out the truth and the facts on all issues. Please hit that like button and share this broadcast and comment as well. All right. So I think I got all of the super chats here. All right. So perfect. Okay. So moving right along to Wendy has another super chat here. She says, I'm afraid of this turning into a George Floyd situation. Yeah, Shelly, you mentioned that, didn't you, a couple of days ago?
Yeah, I think it's going to escalate, or at least I'm going to say the significance or maybe the impact, whatever. It's going to escalate, and it's also going to take some racial angles more than what it is now. I just believe that. Someone I was talking to earlier said that he likens it's probably going to take the likings of even comparing to Trayvon Martin. So it's going to take some national significance. So I just believe that.
All right.
Yeah, it fits their narrative, right? Mm-hmm. Because if this were two black boys fighting and somebody got stabbed, wouldn't have even raised an eyebrow.
We just had that over this weekend, Nicole. So we had that this weekend here. Two young boys, 16, 17. I think they stabbed each other, or or they were shot. So thankfully they're going to live. But not a peep, really.
A kid take a gun to school here in Charles County and was reaching into their book bag and thought they were grabbing, quote unquote, the notebook, and grabbed the gun and shot it in the classroom. Right. So, and then we have the case of this poor soul, homeless man who died in New York City on the subway and was robbed and then raped and then robbed again, his dead corpse. So we got bigger fish to fry, folk. I mean, I'm just saying, in the grand scheme of things, I think this is just feeding BLM's desire to make a comeback. There are going to be plenty of race baiters trying to make some money on this thing. I just hope that America keeps its eyes on the prize. We got too much other stuff going on for this, folks. Too much.
Yep, you're exactly right, Nicole. Well, speaking of that, folks, let us break this to you right now. Over the next, I would say even until 2028, Maryland will be the state to watch. Maryland will be the state to watch. This is the leftist ground zero. Used to be California, but because of Wes Moore being our governor, because that he has eyes on the prize for the White House, he is now the golden boy for the left. And Maryland will be the breeding ground for all of the leftist shenanigans.
So, Maryland is the Democrat Party's wet dream.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're here in Maryland, for those of you guys who don't know, fighting the good fight as conservatives, as people, MAGA, people on the right. And so we're bringing you guys the news about what's going on here, because most of this stuff is going to become national. Speaking of that, so our current governor, Maryland Governor Wes Moore, he's a Democrat, just signed more than 90 bills into law Tuesday, following the end of the 2025 legislative session. When the session got underway in January, lawmakers shared several priorities, including addressing a $3 billion deficit, increasing economic growth, and lowering crime. The Maryland General Assembly passed the 2026 budget the final day of the session. The budget included tax and fee increases along with some spending cuts to close the $3.3 billion deficit. Wes Moore says, I'm proud of the budget deal we crafted with Maryland General Assembly to flip the deficit we inherited into a surplus while ensuring 94% of Marylanders get either an income tax cut or see no change in their income taxes. We're going to talk about that. The $67 billion budget creates new tax brackets for the highest earners in the state, which some Republican lawmakers continue to express concerns about. Those who make $500,000 per year will be taxed at 6.25%, while those making $1 million will be taxed at 6.5%. Currently, Marylanders who make over $250,000 are taxed at 5.25%. Want you guys to take a look at this clip. This is Fitzgerald Mofor, Secretary of Montgomery County Taxpayers League, responding to this new budget. This is clip 3.
What we saw yesterday just doesn't even scratch the surface of what's to come, as we are still projected to have a structural deficit of $6.7 billion by 2030 due to the aforementioned spending items and Maryland's blueprints for the future. In Maryland, punishing austerity, new taxes, and back-breaking increases in fees to plug budget deficits are the status quo, unfortunately. To upend this norm in Maryland, we need ideological diversity in the General Assembly, and most importantly, we need to cut spending, deregulate our economy, and simplify our tax code to make us competitive for businesses. Corporate taxes must be trimmed from 8.25% to 6.25% to allow us to compete with our neighbors in Virginia, who created 75,000 new jobs to our only 35,000 new jobs last year. Ending BEPS mandates will provide the opportunity for shovel-ready new commercial sites, and streamlining the permitting process with rapid speed systems.
All right. So here to talk about that and more is Fitzgerald Mofor. Welcome,
Hello.
Fitzgerald. How are you tonight?
Hi.
Good. Thank you guys so much for having me. And I just want to start off by saying you guys all look fantastic. And I really love the content that you guys post on social media and on YouTube. And it's really refreshing for conservatives like myself to hear other conservative voices that are very ubiquitous and omnipresent all around Maryland.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much. And this is your first time joining us, so welcome. So we're going to get right into it.
Absolutely.
The Maryland governor said he's proud of the budget deal that he crafted with the Maryland General Assembly to flip the deficit he inherited into a surplus. What are your thoughts on that statement?
Well, honestly, this is just a continuation of business as usual in Annapolis. We have a state that's very unfriendly to small businesses, and we also have a legislative body that looks at its constituents as the taxpayer as just a piggy bank. Endless taxing, endless austerity. Just as you guys said earlier, Maryland is the liberal bastion of the United States of America. And they have this very progressive utopia and vision that they have for the state. And there's a way they have to fund it some way, somehow. And they call it revenue, which is really just new taxes. As you guys say, we have the vehicle excess tax, we have the 1% surcharge on capital gains, the millionaire's tax, they have the $5 fee on each tire. I mean, you name it. There are just a multitude of different taxes that we're going to see in this legislative session. And I also want to add to that, I think this is something that will be perpetual, because we do have a structural deficit in Maryland of $6.7 billion by 2030. And that's in large part due to the Maryland's blueprint for the future. So if we don't get that under control, we're going to look at new taxes, new fees in each session upcoming in the future.
Yeah. This is insane. This is insane. And you mentioned in your video that we are not even compared. You can't even compare the amount of taxes we are receiving to our surrounding states. Is that correct?
Correct. Absolutely. I mean, if you look at it, when Westmore and the legislative leaders came in this session, they said one thing that they want to do is make Maryland a state that's business friendly. And on the onset of his budget proposal, we were looking potentially at a very small cut in corporate taxes. We have a corporate tax rate of 8.25%, whereas in Virginia, they have a corporate tax rate of 6%. So we have a very high tax burden that pales in comparison to some of our neighbors in this regional mid-Atlantic area. So that's one thing that we really have to look at is cutting taxes, simplifying the tax code, deregulating our economy to make us more competitive and put us in a place where we can compete with places like Virginia. I mean, last year, Virginia created 75,000 new jobs, whereas we only created 35,000 new jobs. So there's a huge discrepancy in private sector job growth here in Maryland, and that is part and parcel of the large taxes, overregulation, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And so what I want to talk about is how do you see this affecting the rest of the country as far as the Democrat Party in general? What are your thoughts there? Because we're national. We have people all over the country. And I just want to make people understand how what's going on here is the Democrat playbook across the board.
Correct. Yeah, and I think this will actually significantly change the structure of the Democratic Party actually in 2028. We see that Wes Moore is some kind of favorite to be the Democrat nominee, and everyone speaks about his charisma and his energy, but one thing that we have to impugn is his ability to govern. And we've seen the same exact things with Martin O'Malley in the 2010 to 2014, where Martin O'Malley was a rising star in the Democratic Party. He came up from Baltimore, city mayor to governor, and then the next place up was for the presidential Oval Office. But we remember the rain tax, the large budget deficits, the huge population exodus of the middle class, and that just completely destroyed his presidential aspirations coming up. I believe it was in 2016, if I'm saying that correctly. And I think history will repeat itself here. And Wes Moore, as more and more people are introduced to his style of governance, I think it will make him less amenable and less popular to the Democratic Party, the national apparatus, so to speak.
Yeah. I feel like the Democrats having, especially here in Maryland, having a supermajority, when you hear the governor say he worked with the state legislature on anything, this is Democrats democrating. It is what they do. We want this, we want that. He says, okay. The undoing of Wes Moore will be very similar to the undoing of Martin O'Malley. Martin O'Malley, we kicked his ass with that rain tax. I mean, when I tell you we laid into his ass, we had people like me and other political operatives writing him letters saying, no, just turn my rain off. I don't need it. I live in Southern Maryland. Water is plentiful here, right? We had the don't tax my rain umbrellas. And then we had, of course, the very, very charming Larry Hogan walking around, with his Ray-Bans on, taking a Sharpie to the toll boards. It was something that we did that called attention to his inability to rein in the state legislature, his own party. So fast forward now to Wes Moore, we're having that same conversation, not so much just about the budget. The budget things are going to work itself out mostly because there are fewer federal employees with a whole lot less money. Millionaires have the capability to move, and they have, and many of them are taking their companies with them, right? Yeah. So who do you think they have left to tax? Go ahead, KJ, raise your hand because they're coming for you, sis. And put your hand up. They're coming for all of us. But I believe this undoing will be that reparations bill. When that hot potato lands on his desk, it's going to be something he can't run from. Either you are an uber liberal Democrat who believes in reparations and it's going to break your already broken state, or you turn your back on the party that tells you you're Barack 2.0. It's going to be interesting political theater. And while they're doing that, let's hope the GOP here in Maryland gets its act together and runs a decent candidate that can take the seat.
Well, let's talk about that. And that's what I want
Yes.
to ask you, Shelley, about, we got to, there is a racial component in here. So he is Martin Malley 2.0 as far
2.0,
as,
correct.
yeah, he is that. But he's black. And right now, I think the racial animus and the issue within the country is much different than it was in 2016. So, Shelley, how do you think that's going to play? Do you think, even though he's done an awful job here in Maryland, that's going to be enough to keep him out of the White House?
Oh no, he's going to be a nominee. He's going to be a nominee. Look, never let someone doing a bad job as governor, that doesn't stop the Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
So, and certainly not with his color. And people call him Martin O'Malley, a little bit of Gavin Newsom, and certainly a lot of comparison to Barack Obama. So, oh no, he's going to be a nominee. That's number one. But Fitzgerald, I have a few truth or lie questions for you. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Number one, real quick, just hit them out real quick. Number one, did the 94% or the Maryland middle class, did we actually receive a tax cut? Truth or lie?
Lie, bold-faced lie.
Number two, how did the blueprint or known as the Carowin plan, does it still remain unfunded?
Well, till 2020, yes, for this fiscal year, but moving forward, no.
Number three, all of these categories of new spending, which is new spending, new fees, they have the potential and very much likely will do so to increase. They're not static; they're increasing, right? So bottom line. All of these truth or lies, we round up on the truth side that Marylanders are screwed. We are up the Chesapeake Bay without a paddle.
And one thing that you said is very true, and I want to piggyback on, is that there is going to be a chance for this to increase. Last year, we already had the 338 new taxes new taxes and new fees and increased fees that they pushed in the last summer clandestinely, not through the legislature in the session, but they did that, I believe, with the Board of Public Commissions, if I'm saying that correctly. You have the governor, the state comptroller. There's about 2 or 3 in the Treasury where they're able to put this in, and we're just going to see that. We're going to see that continuously moving forward. We have very lofty, big spending items. We have the Transportation Trust Fund that is actually losing a lot of money, and we have to fund. We have the Red Line, the Purple Line that's actually very close to here in downtown Silver Spring. It still isn't funded, and is actually going to get projected to get pushed back, unfortunately. And as you stated earlier, too, the blueprint is only funded through 2026. That's all that's in the Blueprint Trust Fund. So for 2027, 2028, 2029, there's no money in it. So it's essentially just an unfunded mandate. And at this trajectory, we're going to see new taxes and fees every single year with this Democratic majority.
Well, what the blueprint really is an opportunity to raise taxes at will, right? Because we're never going to have enough money to make this pipe dream work. We should never do studies where the goal is to blue sky. If all things were equal and you had all the money in the world, what would you do? Well, all things aren't equal, and we don't have all the money in the world. That was the problem with the blueprint. It's based on a false premise. It's based on a false premise.
Yeah. We do have a couple super chatters here. Thank you all so much. All right, Ezra, thank you so much.
Right.
Let me see here. It says Wes Moore is on pace to becoming the most grossly incompetent governor in Maryland history. Shaking my damn head. We agree.
Unfortunately, that will not stop him from becoming a nominee, unfortunately.
Yep. And that's why, folks, pay attention. Red Bucks, thank you so much for your super chat. Thank you. One thing I wanted to ask about, because we didn't mention yet, was this sex abuse lawsuits. I think it was a bill. So future liabilities from claims of sexual abuse at state and private institutions would be limited with caps on settlements from $890,000 to $400,000 from cases filed after May 31st for state institutions, and from $1.5 million to $700,000 to private institutions. What's that got to do with? What's that about?
Well, I think the problem here in Maryland, especially in public institutions, DJS specifically is a perfect example of that. DGS facilities, they have people that work there, unfortunately, that they are subject to abuse, whether it's physical, sexual abuse of some kind. As a matter of fact, people who were unfortunately subjects of that abuse were able to see some kind of remedy. So in my opinion, I think this is an effort to lessen the liability that the state has and lessen the kind of money that they would have to distribute to some of these victims here. And that actually leads me to something else that I would also like to speak on too specifically, is how completely just terribly ran how the Department of Juvenile Services is actually ran with Vincent Girardi with a lot of the kids. And that's something that I'm also very disappointed in this legislative session. I didn't see any strong or robust legislation to fix or reconcile some of those issues there. We have 12 total juvenile department correctional facilities, and about 4 of them are closing down, and only 8 of them are open, and more of them are going to be expected to get closed down in the future. So we don't have a system where we take care of staff, we don't take care of the children in the Department of Juvenile Services. And I think that's something that we have to focus on a little bit harder and stronger in the next legislative session too also.
Yeah.
You're not going to see it.
Yeah, no. And speaking of not so much juvenile services, but crime, recent article came out in Just the News. Hundreds of ICE detainers declined by Maryland and DC. So jails in Maryland and Washington, DC collectively declined hundreds of detainer requests from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement between October 2022 and February 2025. The Center for Immigration Studies obtained the data via Freedom of Information Request Act, shows that Maryland declined 384 ICE detainers, while DC declined 14. So again, we're seeing kind of this lawlessness.
Yeah.
This what happens to innocent residents like us here in Maryland when they're doing this? It doesn't matter.
Right. But I mean, part of the issue too also is we have a lot of localities that essentially operate as sanctuary jurisdictions. Here in Montgomery County, a lot of the elected officials locally will tell the media and the press that Montgomery County isn't a sanctuary jurisdiction. But when you refuse to work and cooperate with federal officials and ICE, I mean, then at that point, from a fundamental and a practical standpoint, you are a sanctuary jurisdiction. There was a case actually in 2022 where there was an illegal and undocumented migrant that was captured here in Montgomery County, and local authorities refused to work with ICE to get this individual in deportation proceedings. Now, unfortunately, this same individual was caught in a shootout case where a young child, unfortunately, passed away. And this is over in Tacoma Park in Hyattsville, which is right actually in the back door of downtown Silver Spring. And as you guys said, this is something that's an issue in regards to public safety. And going back to what you guys said earlier, Montgomery County, Maryland specifically, is a progressive bastion for the whole nation, of the whole country. Yeah. And all these closely curated ideas are practiced here in Maryland, unfortunately.
I got one last question. The final $100,000 question, truth or lie? Did Governor Westmore inherit a deficit or a surplus?
That's a lie that he inherited a deficit. When Westmore entered office, and a lot of the things they also say is, you have some of the uncertainty and volatility from the federal government and Donald Trump coming in and they're taking away our federal funds. Before Donald Trump was even inaugurated on January 20, the legislative session and the legislator were coming in with a $3 billion deficit, regardless of Donald Trump coming into office.
Because he spent the money before. He already spent the money.
And he spent it down. And going back to what you said, Governor Hogan left Westmore with a $5 billion surplus. And as a matter of fact, there's actually a memo out there with Westmore coming into office, thanking Governor Hogan for the $5 billion surplus.
There's tape of him saying that publicly. Yes.
So there's documented history of this, but now it's become a political talking point to say, oh, we had a structural deficit for 10 years before. This is something that we inherited. Our revenue streams have been stagnant, and we haven't rein in our superfluous or reckless spending. And that's the status quo, unfortunately, with the Maryland Democratic Party. There's no accountability. It's someone else's fault, and they're just here to save the day.
And we have a super chat here. This is actually the question I was going to, talk about, ask you. It says, too white for Coke with the $10 super chat. Thank you so much. Says, Jay caught a live show. My question, why can't the left do basic math? Must be public education. And that's sort of on the lines of my question. So you clearly laid this out, and we can see that Governor Moore is just lying about the deficit, about the math with the taxes. How is he able, and the Democrats in general, how are they able to get away with this?
Because there's no electoral accountability or recourse, right? No, Democrats have a 2-to-1 advantage in terms of voter registration and partisan affiliation. So just mathematically, as long as the governor stays over a plus 50% approval rating, he's good for re-election, right? Independents probably also have a propensity sometimes to vote for Democrats too also. But us as conservatives, if we can finally tear into that mathematical advantage and get more non-voters to register as Republicans, or get more independent voters to register as Republicans, or get low propensity voters to register and come out, that's one thing that could give us a better opportunity in terms of some kind of recourse and accountability. So you have that in the governor's mansion, and we also have the issue with the legislator too also. Because I know, as you guys remember, Governor Hogan also vetoed the Maryland blueprint in 2021, and the House and the legislature went back and then vetoed his veto again to push the bill in. So there also has to be recourse in the General Assembly too also. And that requires very invigorated, energized candidates to come out and challenge some of the Democrats that are holding seats in purple districts or more competitive districts too also. Case in point, Frederick County and Western Maryland is becoming more and more purple and more blue. And that's something where I think conservatives and Republicans, we can go and we can take back that stronghold there. Baltimore County is also somewhat of a purple county where conservatives and Republicans can go and be competitive there. Anne Arundel County, those kind of things. So the only reason why they get away with this is because they firmly believe that there isn't any robust options or any chance of them losing their positions of power in the legislature. So that's the number one way to kind of reel them in and get back to common sense.
Yeah, I agree. There has been an absolute lack of gamesmanship, if you will, in our state legislature. There are no more blue dog Democrats. Everybody's Bernie or even further left, right? And it seems to not necessarily be groupthink, but a group contagion. It's like, who can go further than the other guy? And no one's considering what is actually happening to the state. When we lose, I don't know who they think employs people, but when we lose our millionaires and people who employ people who have businesses, who do people work for? Because we all can't work for the state.
That's what they
ain't hiring. How about that? The federal government's not hiring. So what we're seeing is an incredible, if you want a house in Southern Maryland, beautiful homes, 800,000 plus. I'm talking about fire sales, because the people who used to have 2 federal jobs working in that home no longer do, and they're looking for cheaper places to live. Fire sale through the roof with the real estate. But the state, when I say state, I mean our governorships, they don't seem to understand that eventually they're going to run out of millionaires to tax.
Correct.
We have got to get our financial house in order. We just can't keep spending like drunken sailors over here at the MGM, for a night of pleasure. We got to do better. And they haven't felt the pinch yet. They really haven't. But we're going to see what their fundraising dollars look like now that there's less money in the state to have. We're going to see what it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one thing I want to, just make clear to our viewers that may not know what the blueprint is here in Maryland. Can you just explain what that is, Gerald?
Absolutely. So a couple years ago, maybe in 2019, 2020, they had a commission, a Kerwin's Commission, and this was a group of educational professionals and people that spent their life studying educational policy, and they came up with a 5-pillar plan to essentially have a world-class education, as they articulate. And you have pre-K. Prioritizing pre-K early education is the first pillar. And then you have the diverse teaching in the second pillar. And then the third pillar, you have the career and technical education, college readiness. And then the fourth pillar is I think it's accountability and oversight. Mm-hmm. And the fifth one escapes me. I'm sorry. The fifth, but essentially what we're going to do, we're going to spend $38 billion over 10 years on this education plan. And one part of it that's really budget strapping, the blueprint specifically, is this planning time. So the national planning time is at 20%. And in this blueprint, and what's planning time for teachers at 40%, right? So with having a 40% planning time, the state of Maryland is going to hire 15,000 new teachers, which is a 25% increase. And also in this blueprint, there's also a mandate that requires every teacher to start off at $60,000. So to fulfill this mandate and this requirement, that alone would spend about $1 billion. And that doesn't even actually factor in benefits too as well. Now, my perspective of the blueprint is something, to me, is only a mechanism that enlarges the power of MSEA and the state teachers union.
Yes.
Because that's how I see it. Because with this 15,000 new teachers that are coming in, that's more union dues that MSEA will be able to take in for the campaign dollars and subsidize the campaigns of some of the politicians, which they essentially control.
No, one thing I want to jump in there, because then you would have the left would say, well, we need these teachers. What are you talking about? We need more teachers to teach these kids.
And this would be the only problem with that. With this blueprint, there's been a stark decline in educational competency. That's the biggest problem.
Let me tell you, the juice.
And not only that, what you were talking about, the 40% planning time, which means that teachers will be out of the classroom for 40%, only in the classroom 60%. So even these additional 15,000 plus teachers, they're also going to be in and out of the classroom more time. The money that they're getting is taxpayer money. So our taxpayers essentially they are going to be going to pay the unions, which is going to keep these Democrats. It's a whole vicious cycle.
It's awful. It's awful. I mean, there's nowhere in the private sector where you will actually get a raise with doing less work. But that's where
being there less. It's not even the work. They're not even in the building. Do you know what I mean? I think the shameful thing is when you look at those 5 pillars, I think from my estimation, one of the best pillars that they have is bringing resources to children, because Montgomery County is a very wealthy county. Here in Maryland, we have our big 5, but the other 19 counties, let's say that, who paid the same taxes, right? Far less resources, but they're doing more with the resources that they have. So when you take a look at what education looks like in each county and how much dollars we spend, you'll hear the rest of the state, especially places like the Eastern Shore, complain about how much money we spend per pupil in Baltimore City, with far different graduation rates, and all of the statistics say we should spend less and get a better result instead of spending more and having ghost students.
Correct.
Yeah. I take that in consideration. Again, this was a blue sky project that was voted in. As
blue sky.
And we can't afford it.
This is what we see nationally, though. And this is what we're trying to talk about, even like with Doge, what Doge is trying to do. The Democrats always come up with these massive plans, these massive blueprints, nationally, locally, to do, and that ask for more money. But there's never any type of way of measuring results.
Absolutely.
Right. Or the results that we've seen in a lot of their programs and blueprints the results are bad. They're not working. And so, and then when they don't work, they throw more money. They say, "Oh, we need more money."
More money.
That's the result. That's the measurement they use. More money, more money. That is the measurement. The fact that it grows financially and it grows in numbers, whatever that it may be, those are the only two measurements. The other results, damn them.
Correct. And it's terrible. And then it snowballs downhill to the localities, and the localities have to increase taxes to stay in compliance with some of the mandates. It's an actual big mess. And at some point, if the state can if we can get serious about it, we need to rein in the blueprint and actually completely reconfigure how it looks, so to speak.
This is what happens when the teachers union runs the state. This is exactly what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Fitzgerald, we have to have you back on. I gotta say, you have been one of probably my most favorite guests that we've had on in a long time. You have provided a lot of great information, and you're engaging. We gotta have you back on. We gotta have. You
gotta be a mainstay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking, Shelly. I was like, we gotta have the Fitzgerald 15, where you come on maybe once a week and provide 15 minutes of this core information. It was really good. It was really good.
Thank you guys so much for inviting me. I really appreciated the conversation. Again, you guys look fantastic. I love your outfits, and guys, continue to do the great work. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
You can come back over that.
Yeah. And we have where people can find you on X and IG, Fitzgerald Mo4, and Instagram, Fitz Mo4 Maryland.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, guys. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Have a good evening.
Yes, that was awesome. So yeah, from time to time, folks, we just want to bring you guys the actual numbers, the actual information about what's going on here in Maryland, because what we're finding is we are ground zero for a lot of these initiatives that these leftists want to push out across the country. And you heard what he was saying, what we've seen is happening here in Maryland in our legislature. And so this is why it is so important, wherever you are in the country, make sure you write to your elected officials in Congress. We must keep the House and Senate in 2028. It is so important that we do that, because if the Democrats win, we are going to be in big trouble. President Trump will be a lame duck president, and they may try to impeach him. We've seen that before. So definitely. Yeah, we gotta keep our foot on their necks. We gotta George Floyd them. So that's terrible, right?
That's terrible.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. That was a hot take.
Sorry.
You're saying, KJ, we get what you're saying.
No. What you doing to me? Yeah. All right. So we got to keep this going. Moving on to The View. So these women are just such idiots. And this is Sunny Hostin talking about President Trump and the announcement he made this week on social media about the impending tariffs. This is clip 1. Take a look.
We should note, again, and you and I have said this in the air many times, there is no evidence that Joe Biden was, involved in any wrongdoing.
Of course, I want to note that there is no evidence that Joe Biden or Hunter Biden has done anything wrong.
I just want to reiterate.
And let's be clear for the viewers.
There is no evidence Biden did anything wrong.
Governor, you got a second?
Literally talking to the president right now to specifically answer the question of what we can do for you and your daughter.
Can I hear it? Can I hear your call? Because I don't believe it.
This is why independent media is so important. Thanks to people like you, patriots who love America and stand for truth, we're making a difference. Together, we've turned them off, called them out for their lies and propaganda, and held them accountable for their disdain for God-fearing, freedom-loving Americans like us. But we can't stop here. It's time to take action with our dollars. Let's make 2025 the year we double down on our commitment to values-driven choices. Vote with your dollars. Support Made in America. Back companies that honor our families, faith, and country. We found an exciting way to make this switch, and we want you to join us. Check out www.popandswitch.com and click Yes, I want to make the switch. It's that easy. It's time to walk away from corporations like BlackRock and Vanguard that undermine our principles. Let's invest in America. Let's support businesses that share our love for this country. You don't have to take on everything at once, but you can start here. Join us in making this one small yet powerful step. Visit www.popandswitch.com. Click the link and schedule a call with our team to learn how you can make the switch. Together, we can create real change.
What's up, guys? This is Giovanni, co-founder of Metro Conservative Media. We are the definitive home for the urban conservative. You think you got what it takes? Go to metroconservativemedia.com and click Join the Movement now.
I got to tell you, I think what's fascinating to me is that the corruption is just completely out in the open at this point, you know, because these kinds of actions where Trump tweeted out before this little pause, he said, this is a great time to buy. And that's really a whistle to those billionaires that can, or people that have money that can buy low and then the stock market prices go up. That's generally called insider trading, and that would ordinarily trigger an investigation by the Securities and Exchange Commission. We know now that that's not probably going to happen because all of these government agencies have been, you know, destroyed and dismantled. But someone with knowledge of an economic policy change that would cause the markets to shoot back up right before posting about how great a time it is to buy right before the policy change happened would certainly be guilty of insider trading in my
Well, let's see if somebody brings it to a court and says, hey, what about this?
Shirley, what is she talking about?
Well, the former federal fuck up has fucked up again. You know what? She is as embarrassing, almost to a degree, as Jasmine Crockett, for a different reason, though. But let's get something straight. The fact that President Trump put that general statement all over social media, I mean, it was so general and broad. It just goes beyond her belief and her thought processes. It was all over social media, no less. And then not only that, I wrote down this. He said, buy low. Well, every investor pretty much does that anyway, or knows that that's generally the rule. You can Google that. You can read it in Korean. You can read it in Farsi, whatever language. Buy low, sell high. I mean, what is in? They're finding. I mean, they're looking for anything that will give them the inch or the eye through the needle to, again, like you said, to impeach President Trump. They are sickening. They are incredulous. They are embarrassing. They are biddies. They are, I'm going to say it tonight, bitches.
Yeah, I mean, he said this is a great time to buy. He said that on Truth Social in all caps. How is this insider trading when he told the masses? Nicole, what are they talking about?
Well, first of all,
Dallas Delight says, Sonny the slave owner, pay up your reparations. Right.
Well, we're not going to hold our breath on that thing giving up any money, but let's just say this. Anybody who can add two-digit numbers knew if the market is low, you're going to buy. Tyrone talked about it on our show. He talked about it at great length. If you're going to jump in, this is your moment. They're looking for anything to get their hands on, to hang their hat on, to find a reason to try to turn America against this president. And at every turn, Trump is maybe 4 or 5 steps ahead of them. So it is really, at this point, political theater. They're grasping at straws, and Sonny knows better. I mean, she's a whole attorney. When you talk about insider trading, there are a lot of people to look at.
She doesn't.
I believe she does because she's never said anything about Maxine Waters going from rags to riches in front of our very eyes. The same thing with Nancy Pelosi and her husband, Paul, going from rags to riches before our very eyes. When we talk about insider trading and you want to see what's really going on, let's crack open the halls of Congress and see how these people who have a marginal salary by swamp standards, marginal salary have become multimillionaires in no time flat. Let's start with eyelashes. Let's take a look at her stuff first.
Exactly. And the thing about it is, what really makes it different than what President Trump did is they do it behind the shadows. They do it in the shadows. They do it behind little doors and sending covert messaging. That's insider trading, not when you send something on a public platform to all who can see. I mean, it just didn't even make any sense
around the universe. Do you know what I mean?
He gave pretty much the number one rule, if you will, certainly one of the top 3 rules of basic investing. That's just called. So he didn't give it. It was not even insider trading. You can go to a bank, your wealth management person, whomever, and that's what they will tell you. You can Google it yourself. You Investing 101, and what is it? Investing for Dummies. Buy low, sell high. That's nothing. I mean, that is not an insider trading. She's just incredulous. I mean, you know what should be her focus is really going back to get a refund on that JD degree that she got. That's what she needs to get.
Yeah, and one thing she made mention, she said that he was doing this to signal to his billionaire friends to do this type of insider trading. So you must be one, Shelley, because you said on the show last week that you took advantage of this with Tesla. So you multi-millionaire.
I guess I am. I'm waiting for my billions to just fall from the sky. Except the billionaires that she's referring to, they don't necessarily need to know how to buy low. They already have enough their assets working for them. Hell, they can live off the interest of their buy low, sell high assets. Okay, but she's ignorant, and not only that. That's a good point, KJ. About she talking about the wealthy people. What she's doing is telling the middle class or those maybe people who want to invest and buy a couple of stocks in some American companies, no less. What she's doing is really scaring them away. She's making them be boogeymen and basically saying, oh, you don't have the wherewithal because investing is really for those who are wealthy, not poor folks. That's what she's doing. I swear, if we ever go on that show, please, somebody's going to have to strap me into my seat. If I'm sitting beside her, you're gonna have to duct tape me into my seat just because to keep my hands to myself. You want to talk about self-defense?
First of all, I'm cutting you loose. Free Shelley. Let's go. If they ever let us on the parking lot, it's going to turn up time. That's what it's going to be. Because let me say something. You hit the nail on the head with her. Telling people that this is not for you when it is tried and true way to build wealth, secure wealth, right? You can pick stocks that are high risk, some that are low risk. You can get bonds. You can invest your money regardless of the color of your skin in this nation, right? So don't let Sunny Houston talk you out of building your wealth, America. Please don't do that. Because guess what? She's got hers. They paid them god awful money to sit on that stage and lie to your face. Yeah. Don't let them talk you out of building your wealth.
Absolutely. And we have some super chats here. Dallas Delight says, Sunny and her baby bop lashes and top ramen hair, please. It is like ramen.
No, that's right, Dallas.
Yeah, that is a good description.
Yep. And we had some member chats here too. Do we have those?
We got Kung Fu CJ.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Kung Fu CJ says Nancy is a product of Baltimore. I'm just saying. Yep.
Yeah.
She is. She is. Yes, she is. All right. I thought we had Allie says a young lady that was there stated that the victim didn't even push Anthony. He literally put his finger on his shoulder. So I don't know how that is life-threatening. Okay. She is responding to the Metcalf segment that we were doing. Yep. Yes, indeed. But back to The View. Again, they constantly continue to lie in order to play on many people's emotions to get some type of to create or make people do something. And they're doing the same thing with this voting stuff. Again, they're lying about that. Election integrity, they don't want anything to do with that. They oppose voter ID, citizenship checks, and signature verification. All of it they oppose. And this is what Congressman Donalds is talking about in this next clip. This is clip 2. Take a look.
My response is Chuck Schumer's lying again when it comes to actual voting policy to protect the franchise for the American people. Number one, there's this thing called Real ID, which every state in the country now complies with, which actually protects women who go through the process of changing their name. So Chuck Schumer's lying and he's gaslighting. People need to remember that back in, I think it was 2022, you had Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, who were up in arms when Georgia changed their voting laws, rightly, mind you, and they followed the Florida model when it came to election law. And they went down to Georgia calling it Jim Crow 2.0, and they were lying because the facts were more black people in Georgia voted in the midterm elections than in the history of the state of Georgia. So once again, the Democrats are gaslighting. They are lying. They should be joining us to protect the franchise of voting in the United States of America. One thing I'll add is we've had more than 30 million people come into our country illegally. We've already seen through the work of Doge that they have had access to register into all kind of programs. So all we're saying is proof of citizenship to make sure you're voting in American elections. It's this common sense stuff. Once again, the Democrats simply are not serious. They would prefer to gaslight than do what's right on behalf of the American people.
Wow. There he is again. Sharp as a tack. Nicole, what are your thoughts?
Let me tell you, Byron just keeps hitting home runs, And he's right about Chucky Schumer. I'm going to call him Chucky. You don't like it, he could reach me at poppinpolitics.com. But here's the thing with Chuck Schumer. You know, he was on the outs with the uber liberals because he didn't do what they requested that he do. And now he's trying to weasel his way back in. This SAVE Act secures our elections. It ensures that these 30 million illegals running around this nation do not have a chance to vote in American elections. Right. Although you see this in small townships and now some states where they're allowing illegal to vote on certain things, the federal government is now saying absolutely not. In order to participate in American elections, you need to prove your citizenship. And you can do that a variety of ways. So the big argument they were saying is that women who get married and maybe in that window of changing their names during the election cycle won't have an opportunity because the names won't match. Well, that's not true because you can use a myriad of other things to prove your name. You can bring your marriage license and an ID, and it shows who you used to be and who you are now, just like you do when, let's say, you go get your electricity turned on in a new house or, you know, buy something significant. There are 1,000,001 ways to prove who you are when you're an American. There are not so many ways when you're not. And this is why Democrats are up in arms, because the plan has been uncovered and we know what they were trying to do and we're stopping them. So this SAVE Act is choking them to death. It's got a stranglehold on them, and Byron took them to task for it.
Absolutely. We have several super chats here. Thank you all so much. All right. We have, let's see here, Dallas Delight says Pelosi is the queen of inside trading. Doge her. That's my news phrase. Doge her. Yes. All right.
Hey, Mark.
Mark. He says here, let's see here. He says, hey, ladies, missed you all so much, but I have to work. Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Share the bag.
Appreciate you. Yes. Arrest Tree with the $5 super chat says, if dumbness was a crime, Sonny Hostin would get life with no parole. Absolutely.
She would lock herself up with her former federal fuck-up degree.
Right. Shelley is on a roll tonight. Folks, if you think Shelley is on a roll tonight, hit that like button. Hit that like button if Shelley is on a roll. She is ready for the weekend. She is rolling with the homies right into the weekend.
Friday night lights. Let's go, Shelley. Let's go.
Brown Eyes with the $5 super chat says Trump did not have to signal to billionaires to buy stock. He could have just contacted them all personally. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. These people are idiots. But back to this this SAVE Act. You are exactly right, Nicole. What are your thoughts? Did I get your thoughts on this, Shelley?
No, I was going to say basically what Nicole said, but yes. But one of the things that Byron mentioned, the real ID, excuse me. So the real ID, in a sense, works just like a passport. So you've already proven or used whatever documentation to change your name, because the real ID validates that change, those changes, whatever they may be, at the federal level. And not only that, it works for the state level too, because many states, like he said, they're in compliance, so you can use it all over, right? Now, some people have problems with it, just like they did after the Patriot Act came about. I get that. But nevertheless, what he's referring to is that real ID, whatever your name is on there, it's already validated.
Exactly.
Just like a passport would be. This, again, they're trying to reach and find any little thing they can to jump on, and they are failing miserably.
I hope they fail. I really do. Not only does this SAVE Act do that, but it also directs states to remove non-citizens from voter rolls, which is something that I'm really excited about. It creates a mechanism to cross-reference immigration databases with voter rolls. So if you're not a citizen, you're off the list. And that is needed.
And add to that, KJ, they're even more upset because Tom Homan and Kristi Noem are rounding them up like cattle and getting them the hell out of Dodge City. So those roles are dwindling too. So that's what they're all over the place. And I have to say it, because they are apoplectic, I am ecstatic. So,
absolutely. Listen,
and go ahead.
I think it's a wonderful time to kind of look at how they expected Trump to be a one topic at a time kind of president. And they were ready to do battle on that one topic. And Trump came out with 125 topics at one time, with everybody on the team, kicking in. It was not like his first time in office. So this time he knew who he could trust, who he could not. He brought in Susie Wiles. And let me tell you something, this woman's got people marching in a straight line. And if you get out, she thumps you hard and gets your butt back in line. We are hitting on all cylinders, and they were just not ready. They were just not, and they're still not. You talk about on their back foot, they're not even standing up anymore. They're laying back, and we got to keep our foot on the gas.
Absolutely. And Kristi Noem, she is nobody to play with. I mean, I'm not loving all the photographs and stuff she's taking, but she had a video that's circulating on the internet where she is out rounding up these illegals, these criminal illegals. And one part, she says what you said, Shelley, we're rounding them up. She's talking to the camera. We're rounding everyone up like cattle. And then as one guy is being put in the police car, she says to him, "Moo." She does that. So I was like, wow.
All dogs need to be scared of her anyway. So certainly these other people, they just need to be scared of her. I'm not mad at her. I ain't mad at her if she want to do the photo op. But all dogs, whether that be the canine version or the human version,
or the two-legged version.
Yeah. I agree. I certainly agree. And not only does this SAVE Act do all the things we mentioned, but there's actually criminal penalties for knowingly registering or helping a non-citizen vote. So this is accountability with teeth. They are not playing. And speaking of that, I know we hadn't decided we were talking about this, but Jasmine Crockett is in some trouble. Have you guys heard about what they're finding some irregularities in the donations she's received for her re-election?
But that's what Sheldon had talked about on his site at one time on Twitter.
Right. Yeah. So we'll continue.
A lot of people talked about it. When here's the thing about seeking the spotlight. Sometimes you actually find it. Do you know what I mean? So if you're a person who has been playing kind of fast and loose with FEC rules, and you think they don't apply to you because of a particular party that you belong to, honey, let me tell you, they're coming for you. They are coming for you, because to let you cheat means they have to let everybody else cheat. And it is not what you think it's going to be. And those kind of rules, this is the reason why I think Sheldon, what's his name? Sheldon has a lot of meat to work with in this campaign, because this is the kind of cheating, if it's true, allegedly, this is the kind of alleged cheating that he can take back to that electorate, to the constituents, and say, you know how hard you work for your money, and you gave her $25 and she didn't spend it on her campaign, but took a trip to Las Vegas to hang out with other Democrats in a hot tub or whatever she spent the money on. Do you remember how hard you had to work to make that $20 and how much it means nothing to her? He can spin that into chipping away at that Democrat block. And hopefully someone from his team is listening and can do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, I think what she did, I was looking it up, had something to do with she was getting donations that apparently they weren't from who they said they were. So she's under FEC investigation. Mm-hmm. So she was over donations to her campaign that were made through Act Blue, the fundraising platform for Democrats. But they were suspicious. So it looked like they were like elderly people from all these varying states. The respondents will be notified of this complaint within 5 business days. So let me just see here. You will be a donor was reported to have given 53 separate donations to Crockett's campaign that totaled $595 and were made through Act Blue donation portals. The donations were tied to a 73-year-old Texas resident named Randy Best.
That's the one showed went to the house.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
He was. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so they're wondering if something was funny with this. Okay. And this is Sheldon was talking about it when he came on here. Okay. This is according also to the Post Millennial is reporting this. Yeah. So we'll continue to comment on that. You guys think there's some smoke there, fire there?
I hope it is, other than her weave. I mean, you know. Yeah. I hope her weave didn't get caught in the candle or something, you know.
Oh my gosh, Shelly. Yeah.
What?
We definitely got to keep on. We'll continue to comment on this and follow this story. We have a couple super chatters here. So thank you all so much. Let's see here. Kung Fu CJ. All right. Says y'all are hitting on all cylinders, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
2 white for Coke. $5 super chat. Says the demon rats are also pissed because by deporting the illegals, these states are losing body counts.
Absolutely. Their whole reason for bringing them in, and they're losing them left and right.
Absolutely. Yeah, as they should. So we will continue to follow this, folks. This is not just about 2026 and 2028, but it's about restoring faith in our elections. Right. If you don't have confidence that the Americans, that we're only voting for Americans, the whole system collapses. So the SAVE Act is pretty much a common sense safeguard. And the only reason to oppose it is you are fine with non-citizens voting. That's what, and we know this is what they want. They want open borders. The Democrats want non-citizens voting. They want all of this. They want a populace of people that they can manipulate and groom.
Exactly. Thank you, Lady of the Lake.
Yes. Thank you so much.
First time viewer, welcome.
Thank you. I love your picture of Marilyn Monroe there.
Yes, indeed. You guys are awesome. And thank you so much for hanging out with us on this Friday night live. We love our Friday night lives. Good way to kick off the weekend. We will be back on Monday night at 9 p.m. We will be back. But if you want some great content before then, tomorrow at 6:30 is Just the Guys. They will be on at Just the Guys podcast right here on YouTube. Check them out. It's conservative talk from a male perspective. So that is at Just the Guys podcast. We have another super chatter here.
Mark again. Thanks, Mark.
Oh, where's? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm off. Oh, yes, Mark. Okay. Jasmine Ratchet, $174,000 per year. Law firm makes less than $50,000 per year. Her net worth is $9 million. Nothing to see here, folks. Exactly.
Nope. Exactly. I do want to send out. I don't know, not a shout out. I just want to say to our audience, if you are in the Maryland, DC, Virginia area, I will be at the Popular Gun Show in Chantilly, Virginia on Sunday. I go regularly, so I'll see you there if you're there. We're going to be stocking up.
Yes, yeah, definitely tap Shelly on the shoulder or say hello to her, but make sure you don't sneak up on her.
That's
Sneak
right.
up.
I was about to say the same thing. Make yourself known at 10 paces.
I might have some other protection there too, so don't sneak up on me.
Oh no, yeah, I actually did that, made a mistake, and I just thank God. It's nothing but the goodness and mercy of God, the grace that I'm still here today.
No,
so don't speak up on her.
Shelly's got going on this weekend. Let me tell you what I got going on. So, you know, I live here in Southern Maryland, and it is crab season here in Maryland. Unlike Virginia, we don't farm crabs all year long. It starts in April. So, my favorite crab spot has changed ownership. It's a new spot now called Crab Time, and it's in Accokeek, Maryland. That's ACCOK.
I know where it is. I think I know where it is.
So swing by. So today was my first day there. I saw a bunch of smoke coming up from the top of the building, and I was like, either it's on fire or he's cooking. So luckily he was cooking, and it was just one guy, no signage yet. He didn't have a menu or anything, but my goodness, the crabs and shrimp that he gave me there. And I promised him a shout out because he gave me a free sample. And
I gotta come down there.
We should make a trip to go. I would love
gotta eat the crab. I'm a crab eater too.
Listen, it sounds like a girl trip. Let's go.
Let me let you know right now. Warning: when I'm eating crabs, I don't want to be yapping.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you want to sit on your own end of the table because
I'm gonna be cracking and pulling out the meat. That's it.
I can't wait. I'm so excited for this man and his business. It's you know, a small community here, so businesses like this that are seasonal are a little bit harder to make sure that people show up and show out. But I was there, I made a couple phone calls, and before I turned around, there were like 17, 18 people talking about, is he open? Is he open? So let's hope that his business takes off and just does wonderful things. Again, Crab Time in Accokeek, Maryland. And you can go ahead and tell him Poppin' Politics sent you, because I told him I was going to mention him on here for that free shrimp he gave me. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And we got to make a trip down there too and check out some crabs and shrimp. That would be fun. That would be really fun. All right. And somebody said, do you ladies enjoy football? I know it's
I
do.
Yes.
Nicole does. I like to just be around. I don't know all the moves, but I like the excitement and just the enthusiasm. So yes.
I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, swaddled in a terrible towel. Let's do that thing. I can't wait for football season. Cannot wait. Cannot wait.
Me too, Colin. When I'm in the crab mood, I can just eat them.
Yeah, I'm not a football person either. But I mean, I'll go and hang out with everybody, but I'm not really into football. But I do love, and I don't really love crabs, but I do like shrimp. I like steamed shrimp, so I'll hang out with you ladies.
What is wrong with you?
I know. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't like crabs, but I do like steamed shrimp. I like.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah, the shrimp were great. He has 1620s, and they were steamed to perfection. So they weren't overcooked, they weren't undercooked. They were absolutely.
Do you eat in or take out, or you can do both?
It's a carry out. But we got plenty of beaches and stuff around here. We could posse up. We also have some all-you-can-eat spots that are really good in the area. So Southern Maryland does blue crabs really, really well.
Okay. All right, we gotta go.
All right. Yeah, we definitely gotta go. And so what I'm doing Sunday, guys, I will be on my podcast at KJ Christian Conservative right here on YouTube. We are going to be breaking down all of the conservative content from a biblical conservative perspective. So we're talking about culture, we're talking about politics, and we throw in a little scripture in there. So if you are Christian and you like to mix your culture and your politics with Christian conservative perspective, check me out on at KJ Christian Conservative Sunday night at 9 p.m. We will be there. All right. So that does it for us tonight. Thank you all so much for watching with us. Until next time, count your blessings and live a life of purpose. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Guys.